Welcome to the Executive Coach for Moms podcast, where we support women who are attempting to find balance and joy while simultaneously leading people at work and at home. I'm your host, Leanna McGrath, former tech exec turned full-time mom, recovering perfectionist and workaholic, and certified executive coach. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for being here today. If you were here last week, you heard the first part of Dina's story. And today we're going to continue the conversation with Dina talking about navigating career and motherhood. So if you haven't listened to the first one, go back and listen to it. But I'm still going to tell you a little bit about Dina because I know we've got some rebels out there who are probably not going to do that. So Dina Silver Pokedoff is a driven and results-oriented senior brand and communications executive and an empowered female leader in the communications industry. Dina is currently Senior Vice President of Communications for Kuehne + Nagel in the US and Canada, one of the world's leading logistics companies. At Kuehne + Nagel, Dina is responsible for establishing, driving, and executing the regional communication strategy. She's been recognized with Reagan's Top Women in Communications and PR News Top Women in PR. She is also on the executive committee of the Public Relations Society of America's Corporate Communications section. And we heard all about Dina's illustrious career in the last episode. So definitely go back and give that a listen. She's also a mom and a triathlete. And I'm really excited to jump into this conversation. So welcome back, Dina.
Thanks, Leanna. I'm excited to be back.
So excited to have you back. So today we're going to talk more about navigating career and motherhood and how you've done that over the last 30 years. You have 2 kids, 16 and 11. You also have 2 stepchildren. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your approach to finding this balance, juggling act, navigation, whatever we want to call it, of trying to navigate this journey.
I used to joke around that I had a master's, a black belt in juggling. A black belt in juggling because it is about the juggle. And, I will say that, there's so much talk out there about, work-life balance. And I don't really think you can really balance. You just can't. There are going to be days where, for me, I am completely falling over like the teapot, like, woo, going all the way into one side or the other. But I really try to work hard to navigate and try to figure out from my perspective what's most important to me and really try to pick and choose my battles. I'll give you an example. So I love that Halloween Day parade. My children both have loved those Halloween parades. I block that on my calendar. It is an appointment and I don't miss it unless there is something super critical that just cannot, like I have to travel someplace for some leadership meeting. I would say that I am successful at holding that spot for that Halloween parade 90% of the time, sometimes 85. And when I have to miss it, I try to give myself some grace that I really have done everything I can to be there for those most important moments, the ones that I and my children are super important to us. And the things that are not as important, I try to either give myself grace, allow my husband to take on. I don't have to be the one to take them to every doctor's appointment, right? Really pick and choose where there's value add for me as a mother, being home for dinner, being there for the dance recitals. Those are the things that are high priority, high critical factor. And I fight my way to not miss those to the best of my ability. But of course, things happen. And if they do, I give myself some grace with it. I joke around, some of you may be old enough to remember the commercial from Anjali. Back in the day, it was a perfume and it was a career woman. It was from the 80s. It was this commercial where she said, I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan and never, ever let you forget you're my man. So the reality is that vision of a person I don't know if that's who I aspired to be, but I will tell you that I think I can, to the best of my ability, try to juggle, navigate, and not completely tip over into one side or the other, give all work and no family, or all family and no work. So I've successfully navigated it, but it doesn't mean that there are not pain points day to day.
Yeah. Well, I think what I hear you saying is you're very clear about what's important and you recognize that some things are less important than others. Not that they're not important, but what I think a lot of us do is put everything on the top level importance or don't think about it. So it's just like by default, everything is very important. And then it feels too hard to manage all of it because it's too much if we put everything in that high level of importance. So that's one thing that I hear you doing is saying, I'm going to prioritize. And the other thing I hear you saying that you're doing is because I think as high achieving women, we want to give everything 100% and we expect 100% perfection of ourselves. And so if we go to the Halloween parade every year and then we miss a year, a lot of times we're going to be focused on the year that we're missing and feel so much mom guilt and feel terrible about ourselves because we're looking at that year. And what you're saying is actually, if I'm there 90% of the time, I'm okay with it. I can give myself some grace. I don't expect 100% of myself. Like 90% is a really good passing grade from showing up as a mom or showing up at work. So that's kind of what I'm hearing you say. Tell me more about what you're thinking as I'm saying that.
No, I think that you nailed it. I think it is about the combination of being as clear as you can be about where your priorities are. It's a smart person who said it wasn't me who figured it out on my own. I mean, I got good advice, right? Like, I was kicking myself because I couldn't take my child to the doctor. And a friend said to me, like, is that really the high value thing? Like, are you really going to kick yourself for that? Let Mark take the kids to the doctor. Like, unless, like there's some compelling reason that that appointment is super critical and it's a topic that, like, as the mom, I should really be there. I try to say, okay, I can let that go. That's not where the high value is. I think too, kind of along the same lines of being crystal clear on those things is when you do get help, whether it's from your spouse, partner, family, or you've invested in childcare, whether it's a nanny, au pair, babysitter, is to look at that investment in the same kind of way and say, okay, I'm going to invest in the childcare provider to make the meal so I can sit down at the table with my child and be there with my child and have a conversation with my child. And yes, it's not my cooking. And to be honest, my cooking's not my forte. I'm good. According to my son, I make delicious food, but that's because he doesn't know any better. Right? I'm joking. He knows better. But to him, it's mommy's cooking. He loves it, but that's not my strength. So I'm happy to, where I can, allow somebody else to do that thing so I can be there at the table with my child, put my child to bed, hang out with them in the tub, while they're in the tub or whatever it might be when they're babies, right? And get that more, to me, the more value add time together. So, but that does require you to really look at, okay, what are the things that are value add to you? It wasn't super important that I be the one to cook.
Yeah.
As long as there was something I could eat, I'd be happy. And I could focus in on being with the children.
Yeah.
I will say also give yourself some grace that sometimes there are times that the children will be on a device. And it is not my preference, but if I don't have other childcare and I need to get something done, then I give myself the grace to say, okay, for this period of time, this is something that the children can do to keep themselves occupied so that I can do what I need to do. Right. And I have a little sign on my door, open, closed. I have unless it's a true emergency, and we have the conversation, what does a true emergency mean? right? So this is, of course, when I'm working from my home office, right? Which could be any time, right? It could be, in the evening after I've tried to put them to bed or in the morning. It just can depend on a big mishmash.
Yeah. What's coming up for me is you mentioned like you used to stress out about the doctor's appointments, for example. And I think about when I was working from home with my daughter during COVID and I refused to give her a device. I didn't want to do that. And then finally I started to look at it as like, okay, like if I could show up as a better mom to her, if I could get the things done that I need to, if she's on the device for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, then it's like a cost benefit analysis. And I feel like we have to constantly be doing that. But I wonder for you, I think it's like when we start out, we want to do everything perfectly, right? Because that's our nature. And over time, it kind of evolves as we go through our parenting journey and trying to juggle career and parenting. So, what is it for you that allows you to think 90% is good enough for me, or to be able to give yourself grace that maybe you couldn't have given yourself in the past, or to be able to say, yeah, my husband can take the kids to the doctor's appointment and I'm okay with that.
I think it was something that evolved over time. I mean, I'll never forget when I came back from that 6 month maternity leave, the sabbatical I took. And a colleague said to me, like, we were looking at like the daycare schedule and the time I was going to get. And she's like, it's okay. It's enough time. I'm like, enough time? How is that even possible? Like, there's no way it's enough time. And then lived it and I experienced it. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm going to build the time. I'm going to structure the time so I get it with my child. And so it is only through the experience of it. And everybody's going to have to go through that experience, on their own and on their own time. It was not an immediate, oh, I'm okay, I got this. It was years and years of trial and error, trying something, failing, succeeding, all the things, right? So that's how it arrived. I didn't arrive at, oh, I'm going to give myself grace until
On day
it,
one.
it was not a day one. It was absolutely not a day one thing. But if I could, someone who's listening, if you could glean that and maybe be a little nugget in your mind that, okay, what is it going to take for me to give myself some grace on this and not beat myself up and not have mom guilt overtake the dialogue in my head? Oh, somebody else had done this. How did they do it? What worked for them? Maybe I try this, see how it feels, right? And it may not feel great the first time, right? Because it still sucks, right? It's still like I want to be like there all the time, right? So when I achieve that 90%, like, okay, I'm still going to have the internal debate, feel a little badly, but I'm going to try to go to the place of, all right, this is okay. Everyone's okay. I'm not getting 100%, but I'm doing pretty darn well here. And everybody's happy and healthy generally.
Right. Yes. I love that. And I think one of the things that we touched on just briefly in the last episode is kind of like knowing how to pick and choose when you're 100% mom, when you're 100% at work, when it's 60/40, like what that looks like. And I'm curious how you navigate that and any suggestions or ideas you have for us of, success strategies.
So, just like when you're prioritizing your day to day, your job, everybody's coming at you as if what they've got is the most important thing. And so you have to already in your career and in your day to day job figure out, okay, what's urgent and high value? What is urgent but low value, right? There's that quadrant. I can't remember the name of it. Please excuse me.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
High value, high priority, low value, low priority, and you kind of plot it on the map mentally, like, okay. And that's how you make your decisions day to day as things are coming into you. It's the same thing when it comes to managing the family, right? Like what things are high value and high urgency and what things are not. And it's that constant really looking at it from as many angles as you possibly can to come to what's going to feel right for you. That's how I do it. My brain doesn't really shut off so great. Like I'm a thinker. I'm constantly like thinking it through and processing it. And I know that they talk about the women carrying the more of the mental load. And I do think that that's part of it. I carry a lot of the mental load of making sure I'm thinking it through both from a work perspective and also the family perspective,
Yeah.
and trying to give some grace to my husband who doesn't think that way.
It can be
Not as
challenging.
much as differently than I do.
Yes. Well, and I think what you brought up there is how you can take some of the things that you learn at work and apply them to how you manage a company, is how you can manage a household, right? We can take things that we learn from work into the household. I'm curious, have you found it the opposite way, that you learn things through parenthood, through managing household, that you take into the workplace? And if so, what do you take with you?
Well, I think managing people is, one of the most challenging things that I've done in my career, and also one of the most rewarding. Just like with my children, a lot of the times the people that I working with or leading want to feel heard, want to feel understood, have that deep EQ of understanding. And as a mom, you need to really listen for the cues with your children and don't just jump into problem solving mode, which is my first instinct, right? So I have to work my own instincts to like, I don't have to solve every problem for my children. Sometimes my daughter just wants to feel heard and understood. And I could say the same thing for the people who I've led in my career. They don't want me to solve every problem or to dictate. Nobody wants to be micromanaged, right? Like they don't want me to dictate how something has to be done. Maybe I can share some empathy, like, oh yeah, that's a challenging one. I can share some examples of how I've tackled it, give you some ideas, and let me know what you decide. Like not solve the problem for them, but to allow them to grow and to make mistakes and be safe in making mistakes. It's the same thing at home. You're going to try, you're going to make a mistake, you're going to succeed, you're going to fail. It's going to be a whole mishmash with your children, right? They're going to do some things fantastic and some things where you're like, that was a really great lesson to be learned. We learned a lot. Let's talk about that. How did that feel?
Mm, yeah. Patience is kind of the word that's coming up for me.
Yes. It's funny because I personally, as I look at myself, I sometimes feel impatient, but I get from others like, oh, you're so patient. To be honest, like there are times I'm ready to, like, when it comes to being a parent, I'm like not feeling patient at all. At all. I'm ready to lose my mind. I'm ready to explode. But, I just keep trying to breathe through it and try to be as patient as I can be. And when I do lose my patience or I snap, to give myself that grace, like, okay, sometimes and also to apologize for it, right? Like, mommy had big feelings. Sorry about that. I'm trying to teach, we're all trying to work towards managing our emotions here. Mommy sometimes does a great job, and I didn't do such a great job, so I'm really sorry. So, transparency of where I succeed, whether it's with my children or the people that I work with, like, ooh, gosh, I flubbed that one. Like, I just snapped at you. Ooh, that was bad. Right? Like, not my best moment. Please excuse me. No excuse for it. Here's what, I do have some stuff going on, but no excuse. I'm going to do better. I'm going to keep working at it. I do think that there's both lessons to be both shared, whether it's in managing the family, growing the family, teaching our children the values and things that we want as a family, and also from a work perspective, treating the people on my team with the same respect that I would want to be treated with. So,
Yeah. Well, I hear you saying like having that self awareness and that humility to be able to say, I messed up, and just to show your humanness. I think that's so important as a leader. Those are the leaders that are most effective because people want to follow humans, not robots, right? They want to see the leaders that they are working with. They work hard and they try hard, and sometimes they mess up. And when they do mess up, they take ownership and apologize or repair whatever they need to do. And I think similarly, setting that example in our homes for our children to teach them to be able to go out and be strong leaders in their schools and communities and eventually.
good people in society. And
Yeah.
there is no manual for motherhood. And the reality is that you really have to figure out. I mean, lots of books, lots of advice. There's probably more than you can take in, but you have to really trust your own gut instincts on some things and figure out what works for you and your partner, and or if you're doing it on your own, what's working for you. And I think it's kind of the same thing at work, right? There are lots of guidelines and manuals and values and behaviors that the organization wants, but you have to figure out what works for you within that, right? That's going to be authentic to who you are, because I really truly believe that the best leaders I've ever worked for are the ones who are authentic and are their full true selves at work. Not every piece of themselves, but as authentic as you can be in a corporate work environment, right? And I think that that authenticity, bringing your full self to the table, endears them to you, helps them feel empathy for you, helps you feel empathy for them. As women, we have a natural EQ, and I think we should lean hard on it.
I agree. One of the things that we talked a little bit about is that you're a triathlete, that you love Peloton, and me too. And I'm curious about how you prioritize yourself. Like, how do you do that? Because I think, when you're talking about juggling, you talked about the two things, the work and home, right? And then there's also this other thing that is me, that, taking care of myself. And I think that so often as working moms, that's the thing that gets thrown to the wayside first, right? That's the thing that we deprioritize first. And you had said, in your fertility journey that that was something that, kind of got deprioritized. So
Fell by the wayside. Yep.
yeah. So I'm curious now, now you're at a point where that is a priority in your life. So how do you think about that? And how do you go about making that a priority for you?
To me, it's like the same thing. If it's important to you, you figure it out, right? So the way I look at it philosophically and the way I look at it practically is that I get up early, sometimes earlier than I want to. I had to really retrain my body because as the workouts got more intense, I needed more time. And so when I have a longer workout during the work week, I just get up earlier. I don't always succeed. I sometimes will sleep through my alarm.
90%. Yeah.
I'm going to succeed 90% of the time. Exactly. So I build in the structure so that I'm up before the kids are up, so that I'm done my workout, so I can be at the breakfast table. Now, my son leaves super early, so sometimes I just get to see him more in passing, but he's a teenager. He kind of doesn't care. But I get to sit down at breakfast with my daughter and be there with her 90% of the time. Again, not always. Sometimes those swim workouts can be more challenging because they're outside of the house and require more time to get to the gym, do that, blah, blah. So, but the other piece is that, I find that it energizes me for the day. So when I don't get my workout in, I never thought I would say this, but like I'm now one of those people, if I miss my workout, I don't feel quite as good. So I find that it's part of my routine
Yeah.
of get the workout in, get it done. If I try to wait till the end of the day, something else is gonna get in the way.
Always.
Always, always, always. I'll either be too tired or something will pop up or this something else. So, but if I get it done early, then I get it done. And then, the other piece to it is also about the modeling that I'm doing for my family, about taking care of myself and my health. And when people ask, like, why are you doing this? Like, it's not to be a smaller size. Of course, there's a nice benefit to it, blah, blah, blah. But to me, this is really about I want to be there for my children for the long term. I'm an older
Yes.
mother. It took me longer to have the kids, and I'm getting up there. So I want to pay the piper now so that I have the benefits in the long term. So I can, well, first I was saying it to keep up with my babies. Now it's about like being there for the long term.
Yes.
Right. So like when people ask you your why, like when you're doing these triathlons, because they're not easy, right? Like, why are you doing this? Well, I'm doing this because I want to be there for the long term. It's for my long-term health. And of course, it's a ton of fun. The modeling I'm doing for my children about health, wellness, doing hard things, that you can do hard things. I'll keep pulling all the Peloton isms out, right? I really do believe that it's just become part of how I am as a person. And that grit and determination to push through and endure has taught me so many lessons that I use, whether it's talking about managing my family and growing my family and raising my children. It is really hard being a parent, and you need to have a reserve of resilience and determination to do it. And you also need that to do triathlons, and you also need it for work. You're going to need all those lessons, kind of have that triumvirate of they're all intertwined for me.
Yes, I love that. And I would so agree with that. It's kind of like you're building the muscles, like literally and figuratively, to be able to do those hard things at work and at home. And I love that so much. Learning to prioritize oneself. And, you talked a little bit last time about your health journey and the importance of that. It's so different to think about it in terms of I'm doing this as an investment for my future and my family's future, and also for today, because I'm going to show up better to everything I do today whenever I've taken care of myself. But I think that that's one thing that one of my coaches says all the time is when you look at your calendar for the week, put yourself in first, that you have to make sure you prioritize yourself. And to your point, for me too, I have to do it first thing in the morning, or other things will take over. I'll get busy with all the other things and all the other important things I've got going on and on my plate and on my calendar. And then I won't prioritize myself. So I have to front load it and make sure that I wake up early and I tell myself, tell my family from the get go, there's an important person here. It's me. I've got to take care of me.
And you show up as a better person, mother, worker,
Leader.
leader. When you take care of yourself, you're able to better take care of others. That oxygen mask,
Yes.
analogy. But there is a lot of truth there. When you can take care of yourself, you can help take care of others. Like if you're
Yes.
not taking care of yourself, how are you ever going to be able to take care of other people? And there's a lot of people relying on you between your family and the people you work with. But I will say, I don't want to be Pollyanna about it, because there are days that I do feel badly. I like, especially when it comes to like, I'm getting up pretty early during the work week. On the weekends when there's, especially if I've got a big triathlon coming up, like there's a big time commitment for that. I try to give myself some grace there too. Okay, it's not going to be forever. This is this part of the season, right? The race is coming up. I've got this long run, this long bike ride, or the combination of the two. Actually, this year, in the fall, I was supposed to do a 70.3. I broke my foot, so I ended up not being able to do it 3 weeks before the triathlon, by the way.
Oh no. After all that work.
I invested all the time, but this year I've decided to not go for it because I already had invested so much of that time, and I had already sacrificed that time with my family. So this year I'm giving myself grace to not go for the big 70.3, and I'm going for more Olympics and sprints.
Okay.
I had a short sprint recently and I killed it. I loved it. I felt great. Maybe next year, we'll see.
Yeah.
But giving yourself grace on both sides of the coin, whether it's for your work, your family, your training, all the sides.
Yes. And you know me, I am a huge fan of the sprint.
I know.
Because it allows me to not have to train too hard. That 70.3, I know it would take up more time than I would want to find, but sprints, perfect distance for me. Olympics, maybe someday.
The Olympic is a good distance too. I mean,
Yeah.
right? The distinction in training between a sprint and Olympic is not exponential.
Yeah.
The training between an Olympic and a 70.3 or an Ironman, that is exponential. We're talking hours and hours. So another full-time job.
Yes.
But, when you're dedicated to something and you want to achieve it, you have a goal.
You make it happen.
I wanted to go for that goal.
Yes.
And talk about disappointing when I wasn't able to achieve it in actuality because I broke my foot doing something stupid, not even related to the training. It took me a little bit to come to that, okay, it's going to be okay. You don't have to do a 70.3 right away. I kept thinking I'm getting older. Am I going to be able to do it? And my coach and I have talked that through, like, oh no, you're fine. Right? As if you take care of yourself and you're careful and right, you don't overtrain and you stretch and right, we can hopefully be doing this into our later years, which I really hope I can, because I think if I can continue doing this into my later years, maybe I'll show up on the leaderboard, right? Because I'm really slow.
Yeah. Well, I think also my other motivation is thinking about when I'm 80 or 90, I want to be able to take care of myself and be independent and walk around and not worry about falling and breaking something. It's just like it's a whole different motivation.
Yeah, but even Leanna, if we end up and something happens that we
Yeah.
didn't plan, we can always give ourselves that, like, okay, I may not be able to do that, but I still can do these things. Reframing it as I look at my aging parents, like, okay, my mom, she broke her back. She can't really do some of the things she used to be able to do, but she can still do these things. Chair yoga. It's all about like finding how to reframe it to a place where you feel good. But part of this is I want to be able to be active until I'm not able to be.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Dina, thank you so, so much for coming here and talking with me today. I've loved our conversation, both parts of it. And I know everyone's going to learn so much from you. So thank you.
No, thank you for having me. It's so much fun to talk about this stuff and to share. And thank you for your interest. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, likewise. Well, thank you everyone so much for tuning in and hope to see you all next week. Bye-bye. If you're loving what you're learning on this podcast, I'd love to invite you to check out the Executive Mom Reset. It's my 6-month coaching program for ambitious, success-driven, career-focused women who are ready to stop surviving and start thriving. Together, we'll tackle the stress, guilt, and overwhelm that come with being a high-achieving executive mom. You'll learn how to set boundaries, prioritize what truly matters, and build the confidence to show up powerfully at work, at home, and for yourself. Head on over to coachleanna.com right now to schedule a free discovery call. We'll spend an hour talking about where you are now, what you want to create, and how I can help you get there. Because every woman deserves to live the life of her dreams. Let's create yours together.